Hey, how's it going?
Good morning.
Good morning. I sound a little bit like a frog today
hmm
because we've been on kind of a roller coaster this last week.
Yeah, I don't even know where to start. Well, let's start with mega success. That's where we yeah. I mean, I never heard of it. We saw a random ad for female speakers, and then you went to an event, and then yeah, you kind of had your hair blown back
I
by
dragged you along kicking and screaming.
yeah. So yeah, fast forward, you go to this event, you get an invite to go down to Los Angeles for a conference, and we say, "It's great, let's go." And it's 5 days. 5 days. Like, holy
But
smokes, that's a long
it's
concert.
not your typical conference where you're like you lollygag in and you like might do a breakout room or like, oh, we're gonna do a break here and then you're done at 5. No,
The speakers, pick the ones that interest you.
no,
Go.
it's
Right?
intense.
Yeah, like that's what I thought. I was like, man, 5 days of that, really? Like, oh my god, shoot me now.
But
But
it
it's not.
flew.
It's a show. It's not a
It's a
conference.
it's a show. It is a spectacular show, and you're like drinking from a fire hose. From like
Yeah,
you get there for 7 a.m. and you're not done until like 9, 10 p.m. Like
yeah. It's
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 intense.
like
It's so intense, and the caliber of speakers.
mhm. It's just one after the other. Bang, 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 bang. Like billionaires, millionaires, people who sold companies, founders, people from the government, celebrities. Like, wow.
Right?
Okay, it's just crazy. And the interviews are really cool. I mean, let's start with JT Fox. Like he's an incredible interviewer and presenter.
Yes.
Um, uh, like just incredibly wise. And I think
Oh yeah. He's done it. Like he's done it. He's built it over and over and over again. And I think what people underestimate, they're like, oh, JP's up there having fun. Don't think for a second he doesn't strategically plan every single aspect of it and have a backup plan and a belt and suspenders to the backup, right? Like he it's a show, but don't for a second think it is not strategically done.
yeah,
Every aspect.
it's changing on the fly because with so many people coming in and celebrities being, the talent and being difficult. So there's no agenda. That's the crazy thing is like there's no agenda. You have no idea what's going to be on the day. And you just show up and you sit and then the lights go off and they play the music and you like get all pumped up. And they do that strategically throughout the day to like spike the energy. And it's really cool the way they
Yeah.
do it. Um, and
But
I
what I
think,
what I thought was so interesting, Adam, and like to bring us to our topic today is that beyond the epicness of the show, every speaker, like all these celebrities and the celebrity authorities and the guys who've built billion-dollar businesses over and over again, they all talked about culture and people,
mm, yeah,
right?
it's pretty interesting, right? Because I you can't build a business that's sellable without having like a business that can operate without the owner being in it. So you need a culture of decision making, accountability, performance. They all talked about communication. That was like the biggest thing, right?
Yep.
Um,
And it was
one,
this is what I loved is this isn't new, right? We've been doing this for years, but people don't do it. They don't make it consistent. So it was Honorable David Walker, right? The he was the general comptroller for United States of America, right?
yeah, heard of
And
it?
right, he was the one to make sure everybody was being held accountable. But like he's seen multiple presidents go through the White House. And when
hmm
JT asked him, like, what's it like? What's it like? What's it like? And he's like, well, it depends on the presidency. And so each president is setting the culture of the White House. And I loved, he talked about Ronald Reagan, right? And he said that was the best run. And he said the three things that he did clear objectives. So from my perspective, I'm like, yep, vision, mission. What are we here to do and where are we going? Right?
Mm-hmm.
And then he said he had an absolute clarity on the values and the decision making, the how people needed to make decisions, right? So they knew what values they needed to show up with. It's like, guys, this is corporate culture, right?
I loved how he said, JT's like, well, come on, what's the difference? He was kind of digging him, right? He was trying to like walk a line. He wasn't going to talk bad about anyone or the other. And he was just like, well, come on, like, what's the difference? Give me something. And he was like, well, Ronald Reagan was such a great communicator. He
effective communication.
Right.
Right. And he said the other thing was clear accountabilities. Everybody knew what they had to do, and they had the authority. And I think this one's huge for accountabilities. Like, oh, this is your accountability, but if you don't have the authority to take it and move the needle, right? You sit there handcuffed. And how many times it's like, well, I can't do anything until so-and-so does something.
Mm-hmm.
And people sit handcuffed. And they create a culture of, well, like, hurry up and wait and just throw it over the fence.
Yeah, it was really, really cool. And even, he talked about culturally, it's kind of one of his 4 pillars from his book about if you want to have a successful economy of our country, one of them was cultural adoption. And he talked about in his opinion, the White House now versus when he was there in the 90s, and how the culture has changed. Like, they used to be very fiscally responsible. Now it's like different models, and it's just like spending and not look like just the ways of thinking and what is acceptable is incredibly different.
Yeah.
And I think it was really, really interesting.
Well, and I look forward to getting to pick his brain even further.
Yeah, we'll stay tuned for that. I can't wait to share that little tidbit of information.
Right.
But,
the other one that comes to mind was Lance Bachman. He, he was the youngest VP at AT&T ever in their history, and he was greatly successful there. And then he decided to start his own business, and he scaled that up, one SEO, and he recently sold it, multi-millions, and now he does roll-ups where he helps companies. He'll buy companies in the 1 to 2 million, get all their processes, systems, pieces in place, and then grow them over 24 months and then sell them for 15 times what he bought them for, right? And he does that over and over again, rinse, repeat. But the thing I loved about Lance is before he selects the client to work with, he invites them to his farm for a week because it's about the people.
Right? Are you the kind of person I want to work with? Right? That's essentially what they're asking.
Yeah.
They've seen numbers. They're aware of whether or not they think it's a winner. So now they want to meet you. Are you the kind of person that I want to do business with? And I love that. Hey, you're trying to create a community of trust here. There's a lot on the line. The stakes are high. Your reputation is involved. If I'm doing business with you, I'm probably going to introduce you to my buddies, and like that introduction is like a sacred thing, right? When you get to that level of influence, it's not to be taken lightly. And I thought that was really interesting, seeing the point of view of people that have this like power and influence and wealth and all this kind of stuff, like how careful they are of the people that they select around them.
And that just speaks volumes to like creating businesses and having the right people. And like the first check is obviously financial. Is it financially viable? And then is it the right people? Step 2, right? Like, and I love that because, like, let's be honest, business still has to be profitable, right? It does, but you can have profits and you can have a people-focused strategy. And in fact, that's how you get greater profits, right? But picking the right people, every single person up there said it's about connection, it's about people.
Mm-hmm. Well, and even, Rick Hoffman, he played Louis Litt on Suits, right? Which was phenomenal, just to say, he's a Suits fan. My wife and I used to watch it. But he talked about culture on set and how sometimes, especially with TV shows, you get your regular kind of stars, and then you get a lot of guest actors coming through, and sometimes very, very welcoming. And he said for himself, he considered himself to be kind of the, what did he call it? He said he was like policing, I don't know, it was passive aggressiveness or anytime there was like any sort of unwelcome feeling or notion, he would just kill it. Yeah. Right. And he was like, I felt that was my job on set, was to just like kill any of that. Anything that's not welcoming or doesn't feel amazing, like I'm on it. Right. And,
right. Well, you can imagine being like a guest appearance, or you get a small role and you come into like to this group and they're already vibing and they're already clicking, and you feel very much like an outsider. Right. And so you might only be there for a few days, a week, or whatever, however long your filming is, but like, this is typical. It's typical for these people to feel like outsiders, like they don't belong. And for him to say like, no, I won't tolerate that. What he's doing is creating psychological safety on set.
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
Right.
Because his character, like, this is the best part. So you associate these actors with their characters. Like Louis Litt is not the psychological safety guy, right? You know, neither is Harvey Specter for that matter. Like none of them really are, you know?
Yeah.
But was cool, and he's such like a warm, pleasant guy, and he talked about his experiences on set and like being guest stars on like Billions and that kind of stuff, and just like, you know, whether or not he felt welcome, what was that experience like. And it's really neat because I mean Suits was on for 9 years, so you got to work with these people for 9 years.
That's huge,
right? So if you're not getting along, like that's a problem. And it's super high stress. It's super intense. You're exhausted. It's like crazy hours, right? So people are not at their best. So,
well, and look at, like, we've talked about the golden apple theory, right? You know, where they try to test the bad apple theory. They plugged in a person who is like creating animosity amongst teams, and like all the teams got the job done, but it was like walt performance. But then there was one team that really shone above the rest, and it's because they had a golden apple. Like Louis Litt, Rick Hoffman was the golden apple on set. He was the one like inviting everybody in to say, no, we are all part of this. And that's right there is the proof of the golden apple. He was the golden apple.
Well, and I think, you know, it's just the way he was, right? Like he showed up and he tells a story of like, because all these celebrities are high maintenance, but like Rick Hoffman, he's like, yeah, okay, I'll come do it. But no one really told him what it was about, what he was supposed to do. He flies in, he grabs an Uber to the hotel, shows up at the hotel, starts walking around the hotel. He has no idea what he's doing, where he's going. All he knows is that it's a bit of a surprise. And everyone keeps asking him, well, who's he surprising? And he's like, I don't know. He finds where he is, shows up, and then just is like completely warm and welcoming, and like does impressions, and is like not too good to like visit an old character, and like you can just tell that he was like this awesome guy.
Right? Seriously, like, yeah, just I got such a good vibe, such a high amount of respect for him. My appreciation for his character and what he brought just went through the roof, right? Like I've seen all 9 seasons. I love Suits. And he always like drove such emotion. His character drove such emotion in me, right? You love him, you hate him, you sympathize, you empathize. You're like, oh, you're all like you go with him, and just to see how he is as a human, I just like mass respect for that, for sure. Yeah. And then Adam Coffey was there, and he had some great insights too.
Yeah, Adam Coffey was a fixer at GE back in the day in the Jack Welch stage, right? So even when GE was at its prime, it still had business units that were underperforming. So Adam Coffey was the guy that parachuted in to like look at the business, and he gave probably I think it was 1 hour and a half, 2 hours or something. I think that 2 hours alone was worth every penny we spent to it on there. Like I was like basically. They pay him hundreds of millions of dollars to fix companies. And he's like, this is how I do it. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. It was just like, oh, okay. Just like that. It was amazing. And, you know, like he's simple enough and clear enough that we can now apply it. And yeah, I thought that was pretty fantastic. But he talked about some cool things. He talked about discipline will only get you as far as your limiting beliefs, which I thought was really interesting. So,
I love this. And you and I have talked about this multiple times because we say like companies are limited by the mindset that's allowed to prevail within them. And the leaders lead that. So if a leader has a closed mindset, it doesn't matter how open the mindset is of the people below them, they'll just end up leaving, right? Because they keep hitting this brick wall, right? But if your leaders are willing to challenge what they think they already know, challenge what they think they already know, and that's hard to do, right? If they're willing to open up and change their mindset and grow, then it inspires the rest to do it. And if you then invest in your people to do the exact same thing, challenge what they think they already know and keep moving forward, that's where I think the magic happens. And you get these A-team players, right? I think it was Adam Coffey that talked about the A-team.
yeah, your A team are kind of like the winners, right, in your life. B team are the executors. They get shit done, but they're okay, right? And then your C team are like negative people, pessimistic people that are like it's impossible or I don't want to do it or whatever. And what was interesting was he talked about both in business and in your personal life and like the parallels, right? So I thought that was kind of interesting.
And that message came through a few times is like, keep the people in your life that are your A-team players, right? Like get rid of the people that are negatively impacting you and bringing you down, right? And the people who are on the path of growth with you and the people who are like lifting you up and they're like, you're rah and like positive and like keep going, like the victim mentality versus the hero mentality, and keep those people surrounded by you because that's how you elevate, whether it's in your company or outside of it, is surround yourself by the people who are those hero types. And they keep pushing forward. And I think, yeah, just huge value in that. And it was the Castros, they were on the last day and they talked about the power of their people and being able to, surround yourself with those 18 players, those unicorns. We call them unicorns in our company, right? Get those unicorns. And it was really, really powerful. Like Sofia Castro talked about how she was very focused on the culture in the operations and how well that was working and making sure those people had what they needed to succeed. And they sold their company for $1 billion.
Right? It's like the number is so big you can't even fathom it, right? Like your brain is just like, wow, big. Like, but you don't even really understand how big that is, right?
Right? And to go from scratch, from nothing, to selling your company for $1 billion. And they talk about culture. This isn't a woo-woo thing, guys. For companies that want to grow, to scale, to be the most profitable, culture is not woo-woo.
Well, and it's funny, right? Like, how much evidence do you need, right? It's out there, it's free. Like, Google it. Like, I think still there's this resistance, and I think I don't know. I think people struggle to wrap their head around the emotional impact that it has on performance. And I think the argument we're starting to see is that it is the biggest one. It's like you're ignoring the biggest lever you have to push on and pushing all these other little ones to like get impact.
Yeah.
Right.
Because it's hard, because we don't go to school for emotional intelligence. We don't go to school for how to communicate, how to connect, how to relate, how to inspire. We don't do that. We go to school for the tangible tick box checklist things. Can you do the things, right? We are trained to do this, but really like the people side of things, the social, I guess, intelligence that you have is the most powerful thing you can bring to the table in your company. And you're right. Nobody pushes on this lever, or they like, oh, we have a barbecue, push.
Yeah, dabble. Yeah. We do a Christmas party. Yeah.
That's like walking up to the lever and going, and walking away for a year.
Yeah. Well, what I really liked, so JT Fox said something that was really resonated with me, and he talked about look at your business and look at your personal life, and there will be like a correlation between the two. What's failing
Yeah.
in your business is failing in your life. And on the surface, you're like, what? But if you look at that, if you start to dig into that, you're talking about emotional intelligence and self-awareness. That's it, right? You're not creating the right relationships at work, and you're doing the same thing in your personal life. And that's like, I don't know what better way to describe a culture. It's that emotional piece. It's the relationships you build with people. It's the trust you give and receive. And if you're not doing that well, like,
Yeah. And he talked about, I love this term, relational capital.
Right?
I loved that, like building relational capital. And our friend Bruno always says it's not who you know, it's how you know them. So if I just meet you on the street, Adam, and I say, hi, I like your shoes, I have like a smidge of relational capital, right? Like I saw her and I conversed with her. My first interaction was positive. But as you work with people over and over and over again, you build relational capital, which means when I have a big ask, you got me. Because I have so much capital in there. And you're building relational capital in your own teams, right? You're building that trust and that support so that when you go to them and say, guys, because shit will hit the fan at some point in your business. And when it does, when you go to your team and you go, guys, we need help. I need help. You have so much relational capital there. Everybody rallies.
Well, and what I thought, JT, he must have said it 100 times over the 5 days. He's just like, there's people here. Like there was a guy that flew from Australia basically for 12 hours to be in town at his busiest time of the year to be on stage there and to give his talk. Why? Because JT had met him. They had built a relationship. They had, whatever small favors. They hadn't even done business together, but he flew basically to cross the entire world just to be on stage there. And then he was going to fly back. And as he turns, he's like, look, there are people that live like an hour flight away from here.
Not even, there was people in LA.
We're in LA, right? Had to drive half an hour for it, whatever, an hour away. And he's like, I've done so much for those people and they couldn't be bothered to show up. And like, that's his ask. Show up. That's right. And I think, and that's, it doesn't matter with your personal life, your family life, or at work. Like, how many times do we meet people at networking events, we're introduced to or whatever, and what do they say? Oh, this is amazing. Like, I'll send you my stuff, or I'll introduce you to this person or whatever. And how many times do they actually do it?
Crickets. Yeah. And then we get people who, like Philip, show up. Right? From Ruthless Insights. Like, well, I love that he shows up, and he doesn't just show up in a little way, but like he follows up, and I was like, I love this, right? He does exactly what he says he's going to do. And I think, that is such a lost art, guys. You just have to say what you're going to do and do it. And that builds so much relational capital, so much.
Well, whether it's inside your company or outside, right? Like, especially managing up, right? You're a busy person. I absolutely appreciate, so keep using, shout out to Philip. He followed up with us. When people follow up with us, like nobody followed up a second time, third time. Hey guys, love you too. I put some stuff together. I thought about this. This is how it'd be great. We're like, okay, this person's worth my time a day. Right?
Well, not just worth it, but we had a problem that we were trying to solve. And I was like, oh, we should just hire Philip.
Yeah, we did. And we did.
Right? And because it was top of mind, and he had built so much relational capital with us that we're like, I know that he's going to solve this problem. Like, plug him. Like, there was no question. We didn't go out and get 3 bids and a buy. We didn't know, like, no. I know exactly who I'm going to work with.
Right. Well, and, culturally speaking, how you treat your clients, right? I think there was another one JT said is like, look, a happy client will buy again. But like an ecstatic client will tell all their friends. And it's like, okay, I love that. So it's like always, that's the always like culture of like over deliver. Always, leave them excited, ecstatic. Like that's a big, bold term, ecstatic. So how do you build a culture of like ecstatic in terms of your client relationships, right?
Yeah. And I mean, JT's big on like the lifetime value of a client, right? And I think he said a statistic that was like resounding of how much of your revenue actually comes from recurring clients versus new. But we spend all this time trying to get new acquisitions, and all like if we focused our efforts on nurturing the clients that we have and making sure that they're served and that it actually will generate more revenue. So really, like, yes, you have to get net new clients, but so many people forget to nurture the relationships that they have that could build tenfold. Because if I say, hey, Adam, you got to go try this company, and you're like, oh, have you used them? And I'm like, no. Right? Versus like I'm saying, Adam, I've used these guys. They're huge. Like their service was epic. You need to use them. That's huge, right? And then you get your new clients through that way. And I know you got to have a balance of both in business, but it is that relational capital. It's that relational capital. So when you ask and say, well, do you know anybody else who needs our service? They were like, oh yeah, I'd recommend you to this person, this person, this person, this person, right? So I think that's huge lost opportunity that a lot of businesses don't look at.
Well, and it's these little things, right? And like as a business owner, like you can't be involved in every little project and to like say, hey, why don't we, it's his wife's anniversary, why don't we send him flowers? Or it's his birthday, shoot him a happy birthday note or text or like stuff like that, right? Like it's not big spending, it doesn't take a lot of time. But the only way to do that is to create that cultural expectation where your team believes in it and thinks about it. Right?
Yeah.
This is amazing. Yeah, sure. I'll do that extra graphic for you, right? Oh, you need a banner? Yeah, I'll throw that together. Whatever. It's not in our contract, but no problem, right? That can't you can't direct that. You can't just tell people this is what we're doing. You have to have just behavioral reinforcement and expectation, and they have to see you do it, and then they have to do it, and then they have to be praised when they do it, and like, right?
That's the lever. You keep pushing that lever, keep pushing, and it's in so many places, right? I love that. Okay, so in summary, because we have like a minute and a half left, the top things we learned at Mega Success, which if you're just hearing about Mega Success, you have to sign up. Like, I think they're going to have a Black Friday sale. Like, go make sure that you're at the next one, because it was, like you said, worth like one 2-hour session was worth the whole trip. And it was like back to back to back to back like that. Right. So, and it's intense. Like they're candid, man. They're candid. They're going to tell you the way it is. It hurts. The truth hurts. It's not gentle. But we can't be gentle. Sometimes, like, I know the song Cruel to Be Kind comes to my mind, because like kindness is being like blatantly honest sometimes, because you care enough to see the other person succeed. And I think that people mix that up with always abrasive, rude, or whatever. No. He cares so much. He wants you to succeed. He's not going to sugarcoat anything. You need to know exactly. Right. And that is powerful if you're willing to accept it, if you're open to growing. Right. So in summary, like, one, get to Mega Success. 20 is next year. And so you can really get all of this. So culture is in all of the successful businesses that we heard. It was either hurt them or help them along the way, right? And every single one of these celebrities and celebrity authorities and business leaders said some sort of aspect of culture was the key to success.
Yeah, I don't know what else to say. Like, we can only shout it from the rooftops for so long, right? Like, succeed or not.
All right, well, the next one from the rooftop. No, it's too cool to do that.
Yeah.
All right. Next week, what do we want to unpack? We're going to unpack. Let's unpack. I don't know. It'll surprise everybody.
Yeah. Maybe you know what? Maybe we should go on our social committee soapbox. I've been like itching to tear that one down.
Yeah, okay, you want to tear the social committee down? Yes. Okay, let's do it. And not to tear it down, having social committees is good, but how do you make it? How do you build? How do you build the relational capital through your social committee?
There you go.
I like it. Okay, we're gonna do that. See you next week.